Welcome back, friends. Missed you last week. Honestly, with everything going on the way it's been going on, I will admit that I have been a little bit burnt. Can't turn the news on, can't listen to the radio with news, can't really even interact with people these days without hearing so many opinions and views and ideas about what's going on in the world. And I guess being active is a good thing, but it's also very draining as you're trying to get through life and work, and also contemplating our place in the world regarding God and the call that we have here. So I'm going to do something very unusual today. I'm stepping out of what we were doing, and I'm going to do something that you may not like, or you might. Let me know in comments or personally. Text me. I think most can do that. I'm going to do something that Talia challenged me to do a couple years ago. She has been on this kick that I should do a YouTube channel called Angry Dad, because she's always got me ranting about Twitter and Instaface and all this different stuff that everybody's on as they're doing these things, having their views, and she gets me all worked up, and then I go on for I guess a while about how social media is not really particularly social, and that the world is developing itself in a way that people aren't dealing with one another face to face in good, meaningful ways. And so she thought it'd be wonderful for me to do a channel like that so everybody could know, I guess, how crazy her dad is, so they'd feel bad for her and send her money or something. I don't know. Anyway, I am going to put a challenge out to you today. This is going to be quick, and it's going to be right to the point as we go here. I have been burnt by the idea that every time I don't do Facebook, I certainly don't do, I don't know whatever any of the other ones are particularly called. But everybody in my life seems to always think that I need to know what's being said on this and that and whatever. And so I'm always hearing about these things as they go on. And I am profoundly concerned. Honestly, I see the world around us just fracturing itself into pieces. And that's something that I think is going to happen in our future. The concerning piece is that the Christian world, the people that are attached to the King, kingdom dwellers, should be that solid, stable footprint underneath there that holds folks together when everything else is falling apart. And so it breaks my heart when I hear about folks just being mean to each other all over the place. Everybody has views and opinions, and it's so important to us to think this way and that way. Everybody believes that they're so confirmed, and so I'm going to share with you something that I don't often share. Politically, I would consider myself an independent, though I have been registered as both a Democrat and a Republican, because in the state of Ohio, they don't allow you to just go in and vote in primaries for however you want to. You always have to register for something. Having done that, I get mail and email from everybody, because everybody thinks I must be on their team. It's amazing to me to see how often these two sides will call each other out for this lie or for that lie or for this piece or for that piece. And every time they do, it's a bombshell, it's a revelation, it's the thing that's going to end all. What should end all is we should all be pushing the delete button when we see these things. Because it doesn't mean much to us, or shouldn't, in the scope of who we are. We're called to something so much higher than anything we see in the world around us today, that it's a shame to see good kingdom people get drugged down to the pettiness of what these are. And I'm not speaking to anybody in particular, and I'm probably not even speaking to any of you, other than many of you are probably going through the same thing I am, seeing this kind of stuff happen and getting just down and brokenhearted about it is all. So I'm here to challenge you and to pick you up a little bit. In the book of Matthew, in the 22nd chapter, Christ gets called on to answer some questions, not unlike probably the politic of today as we go through some of these things. In the first piece of 22, he talks about the parable of the great feast. And I'm not going to get into that, though that would be one that I would probably tackle in our challenging the traditional thinking to make you look at that picture a little bit bigger. We're going to move on down past that to verse 15. Then the Pharisees met together to plot how to trap Jesus into saying something for which he could be arrested. They sent some of their disciples, along with the supporters of Herod, to meet with him. "Teacher," they said, "we know how honest you are. You teach the way of God truthfully. You're impartial and don't play favorites. Now tell us what you think about this. Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" As a Jew, it's a loaded question. Caesar is the Roman ruler, owner. Christ is a Jew who is supposed to believe in Jewish sovereignty and their ability to break away from Rome. But if he says something against Caesar, then he's going to be in trouble with the Roman rulers of the day. And if you're following this, the religious sect is using the political group to try to trap him into saying the wrong thing so they can play this gotcha moment with him where he gets caught. Jesus knew their evil motives. "You hypocrites," he said, "why are you trying to trap me? Here, show me the coin used for the tax." When they handed him a Roman coin, he asked, "Whose picture and title are stamped on it?" "Caesar's," they replied. "Well then," he said, "give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God." His reply amazed them, and they went away. Now, I've heard this one talked about and debated from a literal sense. We've heard this one dealt with in different ways, and I'm going to put one more twist on how this works for us today. There are people that want you to be on their side. There are people that want you to believe everything they say and everything they do. And believe it or not, the other side could show you their views, which they believe in just as strongly, and make out things that you're being told on this front to be lies, and the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. I don't know. I'm not sure I care at this point. Because that all belongs to Caesar. Once your vote is cast, guess what? R, D, this, that, whatever has nothing to do with you again for another 4 years. You've done your job. You gave us what we wanted. We don't belong to that. Remember, we're called to be in the world, but not of the world. Render to Caesar that which is Caesar's. We have no choice in that matter. But if you want to know what belongs to God, you need to look inside. If we are children of the King, we belong to God's family. We are called to something so much higher, so much greater, and so much more. Interestingly, if you move through this, the next is a discussion about resurrection here in chapter 22. He talks about, I'm going to keep going. That same day, Jesus was approached by some Sadducees, religious leaders, who say there is no resurrection from the dead. They posed this question. "Teacher, Moses said if a man dies without children, his brother should marry the widow and have a child who will carry on the brother's name. Well, suppose there were 7 brothers. The oldest one married and then died without children. So his brother married the widow, but the second brother also died, and the third brother married her. This continued with all 7 of them. Last of all, the woman also died. So tell us, whose wife will she be in the resurrection? For all 7 were married to her." Jesus replied, "Your mistake is that you don't know the scriptures and you don't know the power of God." Telling the Sadducees this, I gotta love this. Religious leaders. You don't know the scriptures and you don't know the power of God. For when the dead rise, they'll neither marry nor be given in marriage. In this respect, they'll be like the angels in heaven. But now, as to whether there will be a resurrection of the dead, haven't you ever read about this in the scriptures? Long after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob died, God said, "I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." So he is the God of the living, not the dead. When the crowds heard him, they were astounded at his teaching. See, what's happening here is the Sadducees are now trying to trap him by giving him a question that puts him in a difficult spot, and you see how he walks around it, and he doesn't really address their question or evade it so much as he drives to the point of the matter. God is the God of the living. Well, believe it or not, they've got another one that they're going to try him with here. When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees with his reply, remember the Pharisees went first, they were silenced, then the Sadducees, with his reply, they met together to question him again. One of them, an expert in religious law, tried to trap him with this question. "Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses?" Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment." Now, I know so many people that just stop there, and I know you're thinking, yeah, we know that the second greatest commandment is love your neighbor as yourself, but I want you to get the words in this. I want you to see how this lays out. So 38 again says, "This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important to loving God is this: love your neighbor as yourself. The entire and all of the law demands the prophets are based on these two commandments." Now in John, when he gives this command, they challenge him further, wanting to know who their neighbor is, how far this has to go. And he points out that it's easy to love someone who matches you and loves you back. That's not the point. It's hard to love someone who's different than you and allow them to have their different opinion. And instead of calling them names or pushing them aside or doing anything like that, loving them and treating them like your brother, because that's what they are. God wants all people to be a part of his kingdom. As his children, we need to have that heart like Jesus that recognizes everybody not for their differences, but for their similarities. My heart continues to break as I see the way we're just driving ourselves to pieces. But my hope is that those of us that cling to the kingdom can draw together and be an example for others of what it means to be diversively together, of what it means to be people that may not see things the same way or always understand each other from the same view, but respect each other and love each other and pray for one another. I got to tell you, as the world rages on and the political class and the media and all the different pieces fight over who you're going to be come November, we still see a prayer chain in our little group that grows day by day. As people lose parents, as young people get married, as little ones are born, a spouse winds up in the hospital, a job is found, life is going on in our circles. The tempest that rages around us belongs to Caesar, but we belong to the King. Thank you, and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.